Can I choose where my money goes in a life insurance policy? We hear the word life insurance policy and I think premium. I just pay in $1 or whatever my premium is forever. That is the conception. That's what most people have when it comes to whole life or cash value life insurance, or any type of insurance for that matter. The interesting fact is that I, the policyholder, the consumer, can actually determine how much of my dollar, my contribution, goes towards insurance premium and how much of my dollar goes into cash. So we're going to go through an example here. At the end of the day, there are really two areas where my money can go. First, I have my premium. We'll also refer to this as our insurance expense. And then second, I have my PUA, stands for Paid Up Additions Rider, which we're just going to call cash. So if I pay money into each area to simplify, let's say I'm going to pay $1,000 a year into the insurance premium, call it my insurance expense, and $1,000 a year into cash, my PUA rider. What I want to understand, again, as the consumer, the policyholder, is the relationship. What happens with these dollars from a transactional standpoint when I pay them into a policy? Let's see. We're going to assume we have a traditional, old school whole life insurance policy. What that means, when I pay dollars into the premium piece, again, this $1,000 per year, you're going to find often in the first 2 years, zero or very little of that premium contribution shows up in cash. As I hit the third year, and from that point forward, I'll begin to see I pay that $1,000 in, most of it comes back, starts to earn interest, things start to accelerate. But the first and second year, almost nothing of that $1,000 premium shows up in cash value. And this would be the same if it was a $10,000 or $100,000 premium. The reason why, and this is how whole life insurance companies function, is it buys me a death benefit, those premium dollars. The company is going to overcharge me for the premium dollars, the cost of insurance up front. They're overcharging me for the death benefit, and then eventually credit money to cash value. I begin to yield dividends on that, and things start to accelerate the growth, the pace of the cash value. But again, the first 2 years, dollars that go towards the premium, I'm behind the 8 ball. Then I've got dollars that go towards cash. If I pay in the same $1,000, we call it cash. Guess where it goes? Cash. Just about all of it shows up, depending on the company's loads and such. This is money I can access right away, begins to earn the guaranteed rate and sometimes dividends right away. This is the key to really rapidly accelerating the cash value, the cash account growth of a life insurance policy. Now, dollars I pay into cash do buy me some life insurance naturally. You may see another $3,000 show up if I allocate $1,000 into the actual cash component, my cash value of the policy. I will get some death benefit. So the question that we get frequently, and that you should probably ask, is how do I put 0% of my contribution here and 100% of my contribution here, whether I'm paying in $1,000 a year or $100,000 a year, whatever that contribution is. So we cannot go quite that aggressive, but we can determine what goes where. The only thing we have to work with are the limits. 2 limits you have to work with. You have the insurance company limit. And typically you will see is whatever my total contribution is, the company will require that 10% of that contribution is allocated towards the premium. A lot of the 4 major mutual companies have this limit. Some smaller do. Not all of them do, but that 10% limit, another way to look at it, is if I have a $1,000 premium, I can make a total contribution of $10,000 per year, meaning everything else, the other 90% of my contribution can go into cash. This is going to really accelerate the growth of the account value. We're going to show you an example at the end of this clip here. So that's the first limit I have to deal with. The second limit has to do with our IRS limit. So this term, this MEC, M-E-C, stands for Modified Endowment Contract. So a big draw to cash value life insurance is if it is set up properly, this is an area I can position money and I have a nice tax advantage. If I do everything right, I can use it tax-free. There are ways I can trigger taxable events. One way is if a MEC occurs. If my policy becomes classified as a modified endowment contract, the tax treatment on my cash value buildup will be different. How it'll work is more similar to a 401k, not in the sense that I can deduct contributions. I still cannot do that with a cash value life insurance policy. How it works similar to a 401k is in the sense that the growth is still technically tax deferred. However, anything I access when it comes to the gains on my account, what'll happen, and this is only if I've triggered a MEC, I have to pay ordinary income tax on the gains, and if I am under the age of 59 and a half, I'll have to deal with a 10% penalty tax as well. To shorten this, I don't want this. It often ruins the whole concept or the idea of having a cash value life insurance policy. I've got to deal with taxes and penalties. So on that point, how I prevent it, this is the second limit. Every policy has what's called a MEC limit. What many are not aware of is we can actually set that limit almost wherever we want when we first start a policy. What determines that limit is one's age and total death benefit, the total amount of life insurance. Think of it this way. This is the measuring stick these guys use, the IRS, to determine if a life insurance policy will still view the policy as life insurance or a pure taxable investment. And again, we can set that wherever we want. So to kind of sum it up here, and we're going to look at an example next, is how do I keep that premium as low as possible? Again, if I'm giving a company my money, and it can go towards insurance or cash, and I'm interested in the cash value, I want to know how I can minimize my insurance premium, maximize my cash, and prevent a MEC from ever occurring. Let's take a look here. So we're going to look at two quick examples. First, what we have is a basic whole life insurance policy. When most people hear of whole life or have been exposed to it, they're used to seeing this. So again, going back to where your money can go, premium or cash, this is a policy on a 40-year-old male with 100% of his allocation going towards the insurance premium. Where we can see this, so we have $20,000 a year going in. Here's his annual outlay, how much he's paying in per year. Here's his cash, total cash value. What do you see in the first 2 years? Nothing's there, zero. That means literally I've paid in $40,000 and I have nothing to show for it. The reason why is of my contribution, again, 100% of it went towards expenses. So as a result, the company overcharged me for the death benefit, and then eventually, beginning year 3, most of it comes back, and then more and more thereafter, I see my contributions come back to work for me. But in a policy like this, we hear this all the time. Yeah, I saw a whole life before, 10, 15 years ago when I was younger, but it took me 12 years to break even. Well, the reason for that is 100% of the contribution is often allocated towards premium. And in this example, we see it takes 11 years just to break even. I've paid in $220,000 here. I've got $222. Who wants to wait 11 years for a $2,000 or $2,500 gain? So that's a traditional policy. Now going back to choosing where my money can go, insurance or cash. Let's look at the same policy, same insurance company, but we're going to redirect where the contributions are going. And here we go. And again, this is just a quick example. Here's my contribution, same 40-year-old male, funding for a shorter period of time. We can go longer, but this just shows after 5 years, 0 out of pocket. Main point, my money can go where? Insurance expense, i.e. premium, $2,000 per year. That means everything above that is going towards cash. There's a term rider attached, which are in other segments. So $2,000, 10% of my contribution is going towards expense, everything else in the cash, and as a result, here's my net cash value in the first year. I do not have a 0. I've got the majority of what I paid in, close to 85%, that's $17,310 in year 1. I paid in 20, most of it came back. What did not come back here was primarily the insurance expense. That piece is what the insurance company is overcharging me for. Same thing in year 2. Then as I hit year 3, I pay in $20,000. I grow by more than $20,000. It's between years 4 and 5 where I break even or generate a positive return, as opposed to year 11 in the traditional policy. And again, this is the same policy, same individual, same age, same health rating, same out-of-pocket on his end. Just one example, I've got substantially more money from start to finish. And this is because we decided where our money was going. So back to the original question, can I determine where my money is going or where I can put it in a policy? Yes, I can decide as aggressively, if I want to go as aggressive as possible, 10% of my contribution can go towards premium and everything else can go into cash. That'll give me a maximum or an optimal policy from a cash value efficiency standpoint.